retired in 2005 after 23 years working in the Fairport District. I am so honored, so fortunate to have taught our students and worked with their families. It's a great Fairport community. Also our staff, our entire staff, what a great bunch of people. We worked hard, we played hard, made great memories and great friends. Oh, we were so inclusive. We would have parties. I remember one person had a laundromat, owned a laundromat. We had a party at the laundromat. We just did so many different picnics and so many things together. And I think that was unusual. I did a stint at the high school and I really liked it, but it really wasn't the same. When I was hired, Bob Ryder was the principal here at Minerva DeLand. And at the end of the interview, he said to me, "Now, Bob, there are some other openings around the district in mathematics this year, and I'm sure you'll take a look at them." Well, he said, "I do want to tell you one thing, though. Minerva DeLand is the best place to be." So I followed his advice, came here to Minerva, and it was a great choice for me.
We had fun, and it was important. It was important to have a room where you could have fun. I remember my early years as a teacher, the guidance counselors, if they didn't know what to do with a student, or if the student was struggling in some way, they'd say, "Well, send them to Bergwall's room." So I liked that distinction.
Yeah.
I did like that distinction. We'll send them to Bergwall's room. So I tried to make a safe, happy, not so serious place. But it was serious on an emotional level, because, you know, the art that you made always did tell you something about yourself. And, you know, when they had open house days, they usually would come in here just to watch the critiques, because we would have critiques like you have in college, where you sit around a table and you look at the work and you go, "Okay, what were you trying to do? What did you really do? What does it say?" You know, and try to read the photograph and read the artwork to what it was. What were you saying to yourself in this piece of artwork? What can you learn? I was always taught that the artwork is speaking to you, you know, and that you're having a dialogue while you're making art, and you're learning about yourself. So we always tried to do that. And our campus here, you know, we have the canal running right by. We have the woods over here, and I used to send my kids out to play in the woods. You know, in those days, we didn't have all the security that we have now with like badges and alarms. I mean, the kids could go out any door, go out and play in the woods and take pictures and come back. And then the dark room was down the hall. We would process the film and make prints. And I found that kids rise to the level of trust that you give them. That's why they never got in trouble when they were out in the woods. We never, ever got in trouble. Nobody ever did something that came to my attention that was like, "Oh, this is what happens when you let kids out by themselves." They rose to the occasion. They always rose to the level of trust that you gave them. They would go out, they would make lots of hand turkeys, and we would put them everywhere in the school. And it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of chaos, and it was a lot of it was a big, happy mess in the hall, because when you walk down the hall Thanksgiving week, there were hand turkeys everywhere. Yeah, the scary part of this building is that you build a relationship with the student during the year, and then they go away. And the next year you come back in September and you have all new faces. So that's the downside to it. That is the downside, and they would come back and visit. But it wasn't quite the same as having a student body where the students were there for like 3 or 4 years, and it's like September was always especially scary, because you're going to be standing in front of 25 new students you'd never met. It's like, and everybody's afraid that, you know, you're not going to like it. They're not going to like me. I'm not going to like them. And but you get to know each other after a while. Well, it's sad that it's going away. I do. I feel the sadness. And I know the teachers that worked here rued the day this school was going to go away, because it was a special place. And they made me a rock star. This is a reward from the kids. You know, they vote, and I became a rock star.
Every day was an adventure. I loved being here, and it was just a lot of fun with a lot of dedicated people. I would get here in the morning and everyone would come in and they were happy and friendly, and that was just the tone, and it was a great way to start the day. Our ninth graders would come in and they were nervous first day, didn't really know where to go, what to do. Teachers, custodians, anybody and everybody was out in the halls helping, getting them where they needed to be and making them feel comfortable. By the end of the year, they were confident and ready to go on to the high school. It was really nice to have both middle schools come here to Minerva. The teachers were amazing. They were really able to focus on the kids, and they got to know their names and their family. You know, many of the teachers were club advisors or coaches. And it was a real privilege to work with such professionals. Our administrators were the best. I must have worked for probably 10 different principals or assistant principals, and the dedication that they had. It was really a Fairport family, and no one was more special than the other. As we move forward here, as our people from Minerva go up to the high school, I wish them the very best. I hope that they take their happiness with them and their commitment to the kids, because it'll be just as valuable up there.
In terms of the memories, it's difficult to pick just one. When I think of the students and the time with the students, I sincerely loved the informal interactions in the cafeteria, in the hallway, in the classrooms. I think the more formal class trips, leadership asset training days were very memorable for me. We would train upwards of 300 students over the course of the year, really special time. But when I think about the memories with the staff, what really stands out are more the feelings that I had. So we laughed a lot. We used code names during Regents exam days. We would make fun of ourselves when we knew that we made mistakes. And it just created this really fun atmosphere to be in, where we knew we worked hard, we needed to laugh as well during the day. I've been told that one of my strengths is surrounding myself with excellence. So I think that I worked with a lot of really memorable and supportive people over the years. And when it comes to a shout out, I would definitely want to express my sincerest, heartfelt gratitude to everybody that was at Minerva DeLand, especially during the years that I didn't have an assistant principal. It was life-changing for me to have those people support me, whether we're talking about my lead teachers, other classroom leaders, my head custodian, Patrice Cantwell, who really supported me with just keeping my life together during that very challenging year. I'm a different person today because of the support that they provided to me, and I'll always be grateful for that. So I think that Minerva DeLand is definitely a building and a culture of everybody works hard, everybody's invested in each other professionally as well as in our students. There's a willingness to pause, remember the big picture, and do whatever it takes to help an individual be successful, whether that's a colleague or a student or a family. I think that that sort of work hard, play hard mentality was definitely in place, and ultimately just a true commitment to relationships was always a part of this building. Yeah, so for all of the staff who are moving on to Fairport High School or to another building, wherever they might land, in any of the different positions, I would say they should be doing that with confidence and with an openness to share their professional commitments, their values, their approaches. They are amazing professionals in all of the different roles that they played, and I know that they will continue to have an impact wherever they are working with students across the district. I guess the last piece that I would share is that it's important to celebrate and recognize the impact that this school has had on thousands of students and families. And I think while the consolidation is in the best interest of the district at this time, it does not in any way diminish the impact that kids have experienced coming through this school. And I hope that everybody that has been a part of the Minerva DeLand experience in whatever capacity feels proud of that experience and will hold that part of their life as dearly as I always will.
Some of the things that when I think back about this building, I remember just some wonderful fun times that we had. Like we used to do this thing called Flamingo Friday. And everybody would get a flamingo in their homeroom, and then they could artistically do whatever they wanted with the flamingo. And then we had contests at the end to see which homeroom would win Flamingo Friday. We did that for quite a few years. And that was just something that they did with the kids, and they had a lot of fun, and the kids had a lot of fun. And we just found a way to just laugh at ourselves and within ourselves. I remember the commemorative day of 9/11 when we took down the flag and put up the new flag, and we stood outside in silence and listened to the church bells all ring at noon as a national thing that everybody was going to do at the time that the jets were all crashing and causing such harm to our country. I was so impressed with our kids. We went outside and they were so silent, and we could hear the bells, and then we had music, our band played, and then we lowered the flag and we folded it, our Boy Scouts folded it, and then we put a new flag up that day. And that flag is actually still in a box up by the main office, and shows that as it was in that day, and just that memory, it was very strong. One of the things too about this building is wherever you go in the building, it echoes. I heard somebody say that, and I can't stop thinking about that. Every place you go in the building, and every person that's had a life in this building can think of any place that they walk and think of a moment that meant so much to them. And so I feel like this building will always be a place that will echo the exceptional learning environment that the kids had with these wonderful teachers working with them, and the safe place to go to school. And it's just always, to me, been such a reflection of our Fairport community. There are so many people that crossed my path, and I was able to cross their path during that time. For me to single out one person would be a disservice. I can go with teachers, I can go with students that were here, I can go with staff that was here, I can go with custodial staff that was here, I can go with the kitchen staff that was here. There were so many people that made an impact on our kids when we all worked together to make sure that the kids had a good, safe place to come to school to learn. that there's just no way I can just single out one or two or three different people. It's just, it was a real team effort of bringing the people in that really wanted to work and make a real positive impact for kids. When you as a teacher, you go into a learning environment and you know you want to make an impact on kids. If you're going to be leaving this building, you're leaving this building with the echoes of things that have happened. What you're going to be doing though instead is you're going to yet go in another place where you as a teacher that wants to make an impact on kids and are going to make an impact on kids and love working with kids, no matter where you are, you're going to make that difference. So I don't see a problem with that. I just see that if you bring your heart with you and you bring the memories that you had here and how cohesive it can be, you can be any place and still make that same wonderful impact on kids. Well, I remember when we used to have our kids come in the school, and we used to have the kids make a painted hand imprint on a bulletin board on a wall, and then they would sign their name. So when the kids came to school, there was a place in the school that was specifically for them. And that was such a neat thing year after year that we did that. One year we had a student who unfortunately passed away, and it was just so too early in her life. And it happened after the school year was over, and her family was just looking for something to have people remember their daughter. And I thought about her handprint, and we found her handprint and a signature up on that wall. And I got a hold of my custodian, and he artistically cut that handprint out of the wall right there, and we put it in a shadow box, and we presented it to the family, and it meant so much to them. And it was those kinds of things that year after year the kids could go by and say, hey, that's my handprint, that's my handprint. And then the following year it would get painted, and the next group of kids would put their handprints up. I also will never forget that we had a library dog here, and our librarian Belinda O'Brien would bring in her dog, and that dog was such a treasure for our kids and our staff, especially when times were really difficult. We had kids sometimes just need to go and sit with the dog, and the dog would know that the kid needed them and would just sit with them so quietly, so silently, and just be the best little pet. And that was just such a sweet little memory to see that. What I'm going to miss, and I think a lot of people are going to miss, is these ninth graders had a lot of their own traditions. They had their own yearbook, they had their own musical, they had their own athletic facilities that they didn't have to worry about having late night practices because they had them here for their own space. They had their own committed group of teachers. There were such positive things that ninth grade kids had by coming to this building and being almost coddled for an additional year before they get thrown into a big, huge building and a big, huge atmosphere. So there's the piece of all that was so beautiful for these kids, was to have a year where they could just all unify and come together. And as a unit then move forward into the high school was kind of a neat thing. Well, I am a fortunate guy. I was allowed to be in a district like this to be able to work with some of the most wonderful people I've ever come across in my career, and watch and be able to make an impact, to help teachers make an impact. As a principal, I was a gopher. What do you need? What do you need to be the best teacher you can be? And that was my job. My job was to find anything I could do to support teachers and being what they needed to be in their classrooms, and provide the best environment for learning that they could provide.
started in 1994 in the science department. For most of the time I was here, I taught earth science. But kind of my main memories, my colleagues, definitely. Minerva was a neat building to teach in, and different from maybe the rest of the district in that it was the smallest faculty. And so I really had the opportunity during that time, as both, I was the lead teacher of the department for many years. For close to 20 years, I was the lead teacher. So I had the opportunity to interact with a lot of my colleagues in other departments because of that, as well as I was also, during that time, the treasurer of Fairport Educators Association, as well as a building rep during a good chunk of that time. So my colleagues were a big piece. And then the other thing was Minerva was a neat building because it was unique in that we had those 9th graders for 1 year. And we could really make it special, and it was a special building because rather than the 9th graders getting lost in the shuffle of a regular, 9-12 type high school, we had those opportunities to connect with the kids. And they were able to have their own student council, their own plays, and so on. And so I think that that was a special thing as well. It was nice to have them kind of in their own place during what for a lot of kids is a hard transition from middle school to high school. So it was kind of a neat way to do it for a lot of years. Both earth science for most of it, but I also did some biology, and I also did the RTI program too for science. So I had kind of some variety, and like I said, I was the lead teacher for a big chunk of that. I started as lead teacher in 2005, and then was the lead teacher basically until I left, with kind of 2 short little stints in there where one time when I was transitioning back to being treasurer, I kind of gave it up for a couple of years. But, other than that, I was, lead teacher for quite a few years here in the science department. I think the biggest thing is anytime you have a change like this, you have to sort of just embrace the change. What I learned from my own personal thing was I kind of looked at knowing that change was going to occur. And I tried to find a way, that's why I transferred to Martha Brown, that I could sort of take control of the situation and embrace what was happening and move on. And I think that's a big piece for the teachers here at Minerva who are going to go to the high school. I think is embrace the change. And when you're there, I hope that we don't think of it as, well, there's the Minerva teachers and or the 9th. I think I'm hopeful that we'll just come together like Fairport usually does and just come together as one community. And, I just think that that's what they need to do. They just need to embrace the change and move on. Change is an inevitable part of life. And, and it's part of too is, as a community member as well, I think it's important that we as a community, recognize when we've outgrown something and plan for the future and move on. And I think that that's an important part of our growth just as a school community as a whole. The people I would give shout outs to, in no particular order, one would definitely be Pat Moriarty, who is the longtime principal here. I started when I didn't start under Pat, but he came in very early in my career. And he was the one who kind of gave me the opportunity to become the lead teacher of that. And Pat was also a former earth science teacher, and him and I still keep in touch, and he's a great guy. So that would be number one. Second would be Pam Serrani. She was also, I worked a lot with her, and I enjoyed my time working with her. So administrative-wise, definitely those two. We had a whole bunch of assistant principals over the years, so there's quite a few that I enjoyed working with as well. And then for my own department, in particular would be Jean Whitney. She was the lead teacher prior to me becoming lead teacher, and Jean definitely influenced my career early on, and very thankful for that. And then Drew Eckert, who I still teach with over at Martha Brown, and Mary Alice Kaminsky, both very close with them. Nate Reuter, Andrea Costanza. So those are the main ones. And then also there are other teachers that have over the years kind of come in and out of the building, like Doug Kleber, who's over at over at JP and so on. So we've had a lot of good department members over the years. And then the new guys that have come in the last couple of years, Matt Miller and Nathan Smars and they've really, I feel, picked up the ball and are going to be good for, the earth science program here in Fairport in the future. It was always sort of that small family feel. What was neat about Minerva is, say on a Wednesday afternoon when you walked into the faculty meetings, you really felt like you knew everybody in the room. And it isn't that way quite so much at other buildings that have bigger staff. You know, just I was thankful it gave me a really positive place to spend my career. I mean, really, that was my career, was Minerva DeLand. And, you know, I'm really proud of what we did as a science department and the results we had over the years and the impact that we had on, you know, the student science education here in Fairport. So I think that's what I'm most proud of, is that I know I'm very proud of the job that we as a department did, you know, during the years that I was here.
Working at Minerva part-time and the high school part-time was my very first experience being an assistant principal. Pam and Bob hired me as a joint effort, and my very first day at Minerva was actually 2 days after a car had driven through Pam's office. So that was how Pam and I got to know each other. We got to share space and work through that. I loved my time at Minerva. It was the most welcoming environment that I've ever stepped foot into. I walked down the hallway and people wanted to make sure I knew who they were and welcomed me into their classrooms, which I really enjoyed because I was this person coming down from the high school that had never had any experience at Minerva. Don Young let me co-teach his geometry class. Minerva teachers were so gracious when I screwed up the adjusted bell schedule multiple times for an assembly and did the math wrong, to the point where I did the math on a whiteboard with the math department and then sent everybody my proof. I showed my work to make sure that I got it correct. And that was the staff that I really leaned into when the whole world shut down. So Bob and Pam allowed me to really turn my efforts to working mostly with Minerva through the pandemic and through the shutdown. And that was when I really learned to love freshmen and the Minerva staff and how much everybody really enjoyed working together in the split level country club, as I like to call it. I'm excited to see the Minerva staff again and welcome them into the high school. I can't wait to see everybody and spend time in your classrooms and just reconnecting and catching up on how things have gone for you and your families and just working together once again. The Minerva positivity and culture is something that I really love about that place, and I'm excited to experience that again.
Oh, there's so many stories. One of the memories that I have is we started this Books and Bagels Club when Harry Potter started. Because it's a 9th grade, I was able to take his next book, and that would be my first book for Books and Bagels. The students would come early, before school started. I'd bring the bagels, they'd bring the ideas. Then they would choose the next book and the next book. So I had people that really weren't readers and people that were avid readers, but Harry Potter brought them all together. So that was a real warm, I just love that whole, and it continues to this day. The other is the library dog, Blarney. I had been very sick, and I was out of work for about 6 months, and I ended up getting this puppy, Blarney. So I brought him to school in the summer when I'd be unloading my books and whatever, and Pat Moriarty saw him and said, "Why don't you bring him to school?" And I thought, oh boy, I don't know. People may not like the dog in school. So and he was a barker, so I had to get him to stop barking. And then I took him to therapy classes, and then he was official. And he just, when I would do open house, introduce the library to the students, he was there and they would say, there's a dog here, there's a dog here. Yeah, I said, it's your dog too. He's a library dog. He'll be here all year. The whole atmosphere was just like, okay, everyone was listening. When I would teach a lesson, he would land from lap to lap, and you could see the ninth graders like, are we supposed to pet the dog or ignore the dog? And then he'd nestle into someone, and it didn't interfere with the lesson, it just made it more real. And one open house, I had a mother came in and she said, I've had a student in this school district for 9 years, and the first time he's used the word library is this year. I said, well, it might be because. So anyway, it just made such a nice warm feeling. The other was I wanted to have the students let this be their library. So we used to do Who Wants to Be a Millionaire as an afternoon activity with questions from the library. That was a biggie. We used to go to Barnes & Noble and purchase books. They would review them. We'd go in a bus. We'd go there. So then they would put a little thing inside each book who gave that book. So some years a student would say, oh, my sister picked this book. She was here a couple years before. So, and then of course, what else? The huge Renaissance Fair. That was a project that students and teachers in every discipline picked a project relative to the Renaissance time period. Shakespeare for England, dissection for biology. We had tea parties, Japanese tea parties and social studies, all different kinds of games, pillow fights, Mayflower dance with the French students, and actors from the Renaissance Fair in Sterling, New York. We even had in the very beginning a roasted pig, but that was put down. Then we had fried dough, and the cafeteria staff was responsible for that too. But the great part of all of it was the camaraderie that we had with each of the teachers. Most libraries and social studies teachers work together all the time, but I used to also correct their papers, and the students could never be wrong. They'd just do it again until they got it right. And that was always a fun thing too, because I got to know them all so well. So as a librarian, it's a dream. It was a dream school, dream faculty, great administration. My heart is big when I think of it. I still see adults that say to me, do you still have Blarney? And I'm like, oh, no. But they remember the dog. They remember me. I said, I guess I haven't changed all that much. And I live in Fairport, so I see people a lot. It's just been a great experience. I never, ever knew that vacations were coming close. I never counted days to anything. I loved every day coming in. And I think it was the school, the building, the feeling, and the people involved. Pat Moriarty, all the, Phil Guadagnino, God rest him, he was all the leaders of the departments, like the English. Bob Webster, who I still see, plays Irish music around, he's something else. Sue Casement, she just retired as president of the union. She was my colleague in this for the award for Misty. We won the national award she had a project called People Who Change the World, and every one of the students would pick someone. They would use technology with a word blog about this person, and if that person was alive today, what would they do? But it was a year-long project using tools in the library, and we did with the gifted and talented mentor Cindy Rubenstein. We won the award, so we worked together a lot. And the foreign language department, I mean, we planned their trip to Paris. So individuals, I hate to leave anyone out, but those people I worked with more than other people, and they were great. Yeah. And Bob Reiter, who was the original principal before I was sent to the high school, he was great too, yeah. Well, they're always going to be so influential, and they are never going to forget what the ninth grade student is, and they're going to cater to that student and who they are, and that's going to make a big difference like it did here. And I think they are who they are, and they're going to shine there as well.
think what the best part of working at Minerva was when I came in, I knew nobody, and instantly it was family. Like, I was accepted and wrapped in part of the family, and I think that's one thing that the staff did incredibly well. And I saw that when new kids came in, when new staff came in, and just my memories of working here, I will always cherish. I think just knowing every morning and throughout the day, you could just pop into any room, any work room, and like, it was so natural, and people were team oriented and focused on supporting students and each other. You know, as far as the staff goes, of who I have a shout out to, like, honestly, there are so many. Like, as I just walked in, I was thinking of all the different interactions I've had. You know, every department has amazing people, and so they're just, you could converse with anyone. And one thing I really loved is clarity is kind, and people here were very clear about what they were feeling, what needed to change, how they were contributing, and so everyone was like on the same page. So it was there was no question mark about where you stood or where we were going, and I think that that's a mark of a great staff and great culture. Like, Minerva and Fairport together, like, just do a great job of working together to support kids. I guess I owe a lot to Pam Serrani, just kind of showing me the initial routes of being an administrator. And when I went to the high school, I had an amazing team to work with there. Like, I just learned so much from them, and I really, like, anytime that I have a challenging situation, I kind of go back to my experiences with them. They made me such a better educator and just overall humans. You get what you put into it, and you're going to find that wherever you're landing, like, there's amazing colleagues, and there's going to be great opportunities for you to contribute, and you'll find your spot. Like, when I moved to the high school, I love that place too. It was just really good people, and that's kind of what Fairport brings to the table, is a great staff, great culture, great community feel. I was in my first musical when I was in Minerva. Really? Pam and I were invited to be part of the cast, so we ran on stage for 4 seconds, and then we were off. We got costumed up. It was a lot of fun, and it was just a very fond memory, just running on stage and pretending like we were a big deal. You know, we weren't, but it felt like it was lots of laughs.
Definitely my favorite part of Minerva is the staff here. I just love working with these people every day. They're very supportive, they're very kind, they're very caring, and it really is a family here at Minerva. So I've never fully experienced this at any school I've ever worked with in my 20 years of teaching. So I really, really love the people who come in here every day, give it their all for these kids, and I'm going to really miss the closeness that we all have here. I will miss my room, and I will miss the people that are in my hallway, because I am with the math department and I don't know where my room will be next year. So I will miss being able to see everyone so easily here, just with how small the school is and the staff. So that's one thing I definitely will miss, that I won't be right next door to certain people and things like that. But that's probably part that I will miss the most. And I also will miss the fact that I'm able to know the kids so well, because it is just one grade, and see so many of these kids over and over again, and just develop those relationships with them too. I would love to give a shout out to Mary Falter. I have had the pleasure of sharing a room with her the last 2 years. She's been a wonderful roommate and also a semi-mentor for me as well, being here. I want to give a shout out to Don Young for all that he does. He transitioned into being the president of the FEA union, and he does a great job with that, make sure that everyone is heard, and he does it with a lot of sense of humor and kindness and things like that. So really appreciate him. And I also want to shout out to Lindsay Waters, who's next room to me, and just have gotten very close with her and appreciate all her stories and talks that we've been able to have and share. One of the things, I live in Fairport myself, and both my kids will be going through Fairport schools. So my son is in 7th grade, so he will not get a chance to be part of Minerva. So, part of me is sad. I'm excited that I'll get to see him at the high school, but I really do love the uniqueness of that we have all these kids who have never been together for the first time, that they get to come together for the first time and share this unique experience with one another and with just a great staff. And I do know a lot of the teachers at the high school, and I'm really excited to be working closely with them next year too. So I'm very looking forward to that piece as well.
One of the great joys of my life has been being the principal of Minerva DeLand for so many reasons. Just the role of principal itself, you get to know everybody, not the kids, staff, all the staff, parents, families, community. That's really been a gift, but specific to Minerva DeLand, so I come from a small town, a small school originally. I went to a small school. My first teaching job was in a small school. And when I came to Fairport, it was originally in Fairport High School, and the conversation was always, how do we make a big school feel small for the kids and the staff? And that's always the challenge. But coming to Minerva, that is inherent in the size of the school. So to me, it's the perfect model for a school. You have a small school environment within a large district and all the resources and supports that comes along with, and a large supportive community. So it's been a joy in that way, and just the people I've worked with. You know, the staff has been incredible. From day one, I started as a principal at Minerva during COVID. So it was like, hey, you're principal, here's COVID, and how do you make that work? But from day one, the staff was extraordinarily welcoming during a crisis, a global pandemic, and we just rolled our sleeves up and worked together to support kids. And that's always my biggest takeaway for the staff here is teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. And I think a lot of people say that, but I've never asked anybody to do something. We're like, I don't know about that. If it's for kids and it's we'll support kids in that way, everybody rolls their sleeves up here to take care of. And I think that speaks to the small school environment. Every day, every moment, I kind of joke, but it's not a joke. Like I sing in my car on my way to work. It's truly like I love coming to work every day. And that's a reflection of the people, the staff, the kids. A couple examples I'd share. There was one of our commencement graduation speeches. One of our students acknowledged one of our custodial team a couple of years ago. So that speaks to that. Another fond memory is I asked a staff member he was going to take on a new club, and that staff member over the summer came in and built this Raider Way Cafe. I'm like, he came in September, he was like, hey, check this out. I'm like, are you kidding me? You did this over the summer? And just those little hallway interactions, those little things are the big things, right, that make a huge cultural difference. So again, too many people to call out one or two. It's all of it. And I say this genuinely, I stand on the back of giants of people that have come before me, principals, teachers, again, custodians. So I'm just really grateful to be part of this experience. Honestly, Minerva has made a difference for so many kids. We just had the last concert celebration here at Minerva last night, so it's fresh on my mind. But the legacy of Minerva DeLand does not get lost on me. So when I say it's been a true gift, not just working with the people in these last 6 years, but being a part of something that's really special, and not just the 9th grade piece, but for the community where you have 2 middle schools coming together for the first time to have the shared experience of 9th grade is really hard. Right, like most people have blocked out 9th grade because it's hard socially, academically. So to have this time and space together to get to know each other and to work through social stuff, to form friendships, to change friendships, to learn and grow without the distractions of like the high school or other things, it's been a real great model, and it's been a a joy to work in. And again, everybody gets an education, I believe, to make a difference for kids, right? And this has been such a special place to do that for a lot of reasons. The structure, the people that come here, that buy into the task, right? People know the task here. Yeah, ultimately, it's you know, it's a bittersweet sadness that we're losing this community, but it's going to be okay, right? There's really good people at Fairport High School, and there's really good people at Minerva DeLand. Being from Fairport High School, I've loved that experience. I love that family, and I love the MD family. So I know things will work out, but continue focusing on what matters, and that's teamwork. The things that make Minerva a special place: teamwork, leaning into kids first, and doing whatever we can to make Fairport High School feel small for these kids, this experience, and for our colleagues. So keep doing what you're doing. Thank you to everybody, every contributor to Minerva DeLand, contributor to Minerva DeLand for the last 70 years and the last 6 years that I've been here. Everybody has been extremely supportive of me personally, but of the kids, and the reason that we are such a unique culture now is because of everybody that's come before us. So love my MD family, and I'm looking forward and cherishing the last few days here.